Good morning, scholars. Today you will be learning about Punnett squares in order to predict the outcomes of crossing organisms. And so while you're learning about the Punnett square, you're also going to be learning how to use the Punnett square to predict possible genotypes of an offspring. Now, we had a quiz on Friday, and it has come to our attention that we need to update our behavioral objectives. And so students, you'll be learning about genetics, and in the process, you are to show integrity, which means doing the right thing, even when there is no one looking. And that is to uphold academic honesty. Moving on. Now, let's return to the big picture. And so we're learning about how genetics can be used to help us feed the world. Now, before we go into such abstract thinking, we need to learn about how do genetic traits get passed down from one generation to the other. Now, in sexual reproduction, every gene has two alleles, and it is during sexual reproduction that we get one allele from each parent. Now, on Thursday, you learn about dominant and recessive allele. Now, there are other types of gene expressions that you're going to be learning in the following week, in the upcoming lessons. It will be incomplete dominance and codominance, but that is for future lessons. Today, we're going to focus more on Punnett squares. Now, before we see what a Punnett square is, a Punnett square is used to figure out the possible combinations when there is a genetic cross. So when two parents cross their genes to form an offspring, you need to be able to figure out what are the possible combinations out there. And so that is what Punnett square's purpose is. Now, when you're navigating through a Punnett square, you will be using basic probability, the chance. What are the chances that something will happen? When you're interpreting the combinations, on Thursday we talked about homozygous, the word homozygous, and the word heterozygous. Homozygous is homozygous dominant. So we're talking about dominant alleles here. Homozygous dominant means the offspring or the parent, both alleles are dominant. Both. So the word homozygous. Homo means same. So both alleles are the same. They're both dominant and are represented by two capital letters. Now, it's almost the same for homozygous recessive. Recessive is different from dominant. Recessive is more like the shy allele. If there is a dominant allele, the recessive allele will not be shown. It won't be expressed. Now, in homozygous recessive, both alleles are recessive. And so that is the important difference between homozygous and heterozygous. Now, heterozygous means that both alleles are different. Two different alleles. One will be dominant and one is recessive. And so a heterozygous is a hybrid. It is a mix of capital letter and a lowercase letter. Now, what I have in front of you is the worksheet for today's assignment. So, once again, on this document, it's going to tell you what is the purpose of a Punnett square. Now, some of you are having difficulties understanding what a genotype and a phenotype is. A genotype is the actual code, it's the combination. So in this example right here, BB is a genotype. A phenotype is the physical appearance. It is the expression of the code. And so BB means black fur. That will be the phenotype. The genotype, big B, has a phenotype of black fur. And so, going back on the vocabulary we have covered, homozygous dominant means both alleles are dominant. And so the example means 2 capital T's. A heterozygous means a hybrid, a mix. And so in this example, it is a big T and a little t. And last but not least, homozygous recessive. The code is written as 2 little t's. And so that is just a review. Now, the most important concept we're learning today is the Punnett square. So notice that there is 4 quadrants, 4 squares in this chart. These 4 squares represent the offspring. The top, big B, little b, that is parent 1. These 2. This is parent 1's allele. To the left of this table is parent 2. Now, the way that you're going to determine the genotype of the offspring, the 2 big B's in this square comes from the big B allele from parent 1 and the big B allele from parent 2. And so it is just a simple distribution. Little b up here, little b is in the box. Big B to the left, big B is in the box. Big B, big B. Little b, little b. Top and left, little b's. This offspring is 2 little b's. And so that is how you will use a Punnett square to cross 2 parents. Now this cross is an example of 2 heterozygous parents. Both parents are hybrids. My apologies, students. There was a mistake on Miss Butler's chart, and so I have made some changes. The outcome of this Punnett square is there's 1 offspring out of 4 that is homozygous dominant. And so dominant alleles are always expressed. And so 1 out of 4, 25% chance that the offspring has black fur. Now, 2 of these offsprings big B, little b. There's 2 of them. That is 2 out of 4. That's 50%. 50% is heterozygous. And so now there's a mix, 1 dominant, 1 recessive. Remember, dominant alleles are always expressed. The recessive will not be expressed. It will be covered by the dominant. And so the phenotype for this heterozygous combination is black fur. Now, there is one homozygous recessive offspring left. That offspring is white fur. Recessive alleles will always be expressed when there is no dominant allele present. And so 1 out of 4, 25% chance that the offspring will have white fur. That is how you interpret the results of this Punnett square. Now, returning to the slides, for those of you who got lost in my explanation with the worksheet, on the slides, there is a color-coded version of the Punnett square. So same thing, it's a distribution. Notice the yellow square comes from the 2 capital B's. The green, don't get confused now, big B, little b. Purple, little b, little b. And so if you're lost from the worksheet, here is another example of the Punnett square being done. Instead of rabbits, it is a flower. Now, today's assignment is based on 2 videos from BrainPop. And so it's on the next slide. Now, when you use BrainPop, it will lead you to the website. When you click on it, it's going to ask for you to sign in. I have provided the login information on the instructions to the assignment. Now, the slides also have the link to the worksheet. Just click on it and you will have access to it. After you complete your assignment, I would like to bring to your attention that there are other resources available. Ms. Butler has a app that lets you, it's a link that leads to a cross between 2 parents, and then it has questions to assess if you understand the concepts that we're talking about on Thursday and today. And more or less, it's like you create your own offspring between 2 crosses, and you try to figure out what does the offspring look like. Now, the one that I like is the Punnett square calculator. It has a nice Punnett square right here. This is a mono cross, 1 cross. Now, you can actually make this even crazier. Now, what if there's 2 traits I want to do? And so notice, voila, it is a 4x4 square now. Punnett squares can be simple and easy. Now, this is some crazy high school level genetics. So this resource provided, experiment with it. You can mess around with it. You can change the traits of the parents, and you can even choose which one is dominant or none at all. And then you can see it's all color-coded. Experiment with it. Play around with it. And that is all. Watch the video. Finish the assignment. Turn it in. Remember, for homework, there is a Google form which will be attached to the assignment. Alright, scholars, good luck.